Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Bryan with DD214 Transport. Please like, subscribe, and hit the little bell for notification. Come on in the house. Have a cup of coffee. Sit down, put your listening ears on, and let's go over some things. This three-part, which this is the last part of this, because I have come full circle on this whole subject. To give you a rundown, backing up to the beginning, a driver was ticketed in California for having a 12,000 pound trailer. 14,000 pound truck, 12,000 pound trailer. He was ticketed, and that's what kicked off this three-part series. Well, part two was we went in, we did our research on it, and we come back out, and it required more digging. After part two, a gentleman out of North Carolina sent me a ticket and said, hey, we were just ticketed for the same thing in North Carolina. So we continued to dig, and I swear it's like a Lebanese salad. The more you eat, the more it grows. You just can't eat it all. So to make a long story short, we finally got a hold of an attorney. We got a hold of some D.O.T. officers, and I think we got it figured out. So in some aspects, some of the things I was told in the beginning was incorrect. Some of the things I was told in the beginning was correct. So let's go back and look at it like this. I want to try to break this down very, very simply, because it is minutia. The whole thing is just crazy. And I learned something new about North Carolina while we're digging through it. So, to break this down as simply as I can, is every state has a reciprocating agreement with the other states. Otherwise, we would all have to have 50 license plate or 50 driver's license to drive in the 50 states. So basically what that says is that California agrees to abide by, for example, Texas law. Whatever Texas says their requirements are for a CDL, then they agreed to accept that within their state boundaries. Now, how does this work out for the guy in California that got the ticket? Well, it works out like this. The police officer was incorrect. He should not have given that ticket. They'll fight it out in court, and the driver's going to win. Now, the gentleman in North Carolina, and this is where I learned something new, the gentleman in North Carolina that just got ticketed for having a 14,000 pound truck and a 12,000 pound trailer lived in North Carolina. Well, guys, unbeknownst to me, unbeknownst to, well, I'm going to say everybody that wrote the law, because in the North Carolina CDL manual, in any literature that you get from North Carolina DOT, anything that you get right now, except for going to the general statute within the state of North Carolina, 14,000 and 12,000 is legal. However, it is not. It is General Statute 20-4-01, and it states that if you are towing a vehicle of at least 10,001 pounds, you must have a CDL. Now, why would that not be, the question I have is, why would that not be in the documentation? Why would that not be in the CDL manual so that you would know it? But it's not. It's not there. It's in that statute in North Carolina. That's the only place you can find it. I looked everywhere. So how do you get around this stuff? How do you deal with this stuff? Well, number one, know your state's law. Wherever your state or whatever your state law is, that is the prevailing law. So, for example, the gentleman got pulled over in North Carolina out of Texas. North Carolina's law says you can't be over. Texas law says you can be over by a certain amount of weight. He wouldn't get a ticket because it's prevailing in the domicile state of the driver. Wherever that truck and trailer is registered, wherever your driver's license is from, that's where the, see, stuff like that just makes you lose your damn mind. That's where you have to be in compliance with the law. So my suggestion is this. Now, when I hold on, when I talked to the officer, the North Carolina State Trooper, he gave me that old ignorance of the law is no excuse. I get it. So, all right. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that very much. And let me ask you this, the crazy question.
Okay.
North Carolina, zero of North Carolina's documents has this law in it, as far as the DMV regulations and all that. When you do your flow chart and all that, it's not there.
You still have to be familiar with the North Carolina laws and
Right.
all the laws of the state when it comes to licensing.
Right. That falls into ignorance of the law makes no excuse.
Yes, sir.
Right.
I hate to even say that, but you're exactly right. And unfortunately, we try to put those the flow charts and everything's been put out there in the world to try to help people.
So, you know, they don't put anything about it where anybody could read it except for, you know, somebody who is digging through the law for some reason. You know, they give you a pamphlet that's wrong, and yet you're expected to know. So North Carolina residents, 20-4.01, it'll tell you. Highly recommend you guys go to your state's general statutes and look it up. Qualifications for a CDL. What the state considers a CDL for your state. If you get pulled over, you argue reciprocity. You say, no, you can't do that because we have reciprocity. So, Ross, you were right, sir. Now, I want to show you this ticket in North Carolina. And in North Carolina, you will see this is all redacted for privacy's sake. But if you go down, if you slide down here and you look, the trailer's 14, I'm sorry, the truck is 14, the trailer's 12, 26,000 pounds, right? But then you go to the law and it's 10,000. So that's where they got this guy. And they got him, and you'll see right here, driver does not have a valid operation license for the commercial motor vehicle being operated. Guys, shocked me too. And I understand now, though, you know, I understand why during all the inspections, I had 2 in North Carolina, and I understand why they didn't get me for that. And it's because I have a valid CDL. Even though I was running a 1412 setup, a non-CDL setup, or what I thought was a non-CDL setup in North Carolina, I still had a valid CDL. So that was sort of how, you know, how I missed it, how I didn't get ticketed. You know, there, but for the grace of God go I. That's all that was. It was the grace of God that kept me from getting a ticket. So my suggestion to you guys is, again, know your state's general statute, what the law says in your state. Don't count on that manual that D.O.T. gives you. You go to the general statute and you pull it out of there, keep it in your truck. Scream reciprocity if they go to give you a ticket in a state where, in another state where you're legal in your own state. So can CDL, non-CDL drivers go to California? If you are legal in your state, hell yes you can. Go. Go, 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 go. So I am I'm pushing this out, and I want everybody to make sure that they understand what their state requirements are. They'll be under the general statutes of the state for which you live. You go in there, you pull it. Don't trust the CDL manual, because that's a guidebook. It's not the law. Even though personally I took it as a law, I took it as a word, you know. Police officers are fallible. Nobody's perfect. Anytime you're dealing with the human aspect of any situation, there's mistakes made. So what has to happen is you got to know the rules. And I've always told people that if you give me the rule book, I'll beat you to death with it. So the rule book is not going to be the D.O.T. study guide. It's not going to be anything the D.O.T. is going to hand you. It's going to be in the general statute. So guys, go to your general statutes in your state, print them out, stick them in your cab book, know what you're talking about, argue the point with the officer nicely. Don't be a dick or a jerk, excuse me, just nicely. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you, first responders. Thank you, military vets. We appreciate you. This is Bryan with DD 214. We'll see you next time. But California wrote the same law, okay? But California charged a Texas driver that was just right.
It's not a reciprocal agreement. It can't do that unless Texas has the same law.
Well, Texas does not have that law.
Then he should not have been ticketed.
He did. He got ticketed, and
you can fight that one, and that should be resolved to y'all's favor.
Okay.
It has to be wherever they're licensed at. It's a reciprocal agreement to wherever they go. If California's got that law and we have that law, then yes, they can be charged.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But if it's not a reciprocal agreement and that state does not have that law, then they cannot be charged.
I got you. Okay, so let me throw this at you real quick.